Welcome, everybody, to another week of Wealth Wisdom, where we're helping you build wealth and legacy.
Companies are like an organism trying to survive.
It's always a risk when you're investing in a company that's purely tied to someone's brand.
45% of Americans have gone into debt for a Disney trip. Yeah. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Wealth Wisdom. I'm your host, Justin Obi, where we build legacy and wealth. With me today, we have principals of Fox Hill Wealth Management, Eric Benz and William Ryan. Boys, how we doing? You have a good weekend?
Doing pretty well. Sorry, Benz. I didn't know if you were going to pick it up right there. Yeah, doing well. Good weekend. A lot of time on the playing fields with the kids and stuff like that. And a lot of time thinking I was going to do a lot of other stuff and never got it done, which seems to be the case most weekends. But yeah, overall pretty good.
Nice. How are you doing, Benz?
Good. Yeah, nothing fun this weekend. Just looked at gliders for the nursery. So that was it.
Yeah.
Otherwise, low key.
Yeah,
I would suggest maybe going with some type of like lazy boy as opposed to just a glider, just because it is nice to maybe sometimes catch a snooze in the middle of the night or something like that if you're up with the kids. So you can actually get one of those lazy boys that has that glider effect, but then also can double back on you. The glider can be a little uncomfortable if you're in that position for 60, 90 plus minutes. So
Yeah.
just an FYI.
Don't worry. We're getting whatever the fancy one is, and it's got all the electronics to recline it automatically and all that good stuff. So
Yeah. I mean, I listen to Bill for sure. 4 kids. He knows what he's doing.
yeah.
Bill, how often do your kids, are they gaming or like streaming live stuff, Netflix and whatnot? Do you allow that in?
We're not huge on it, but maybe like when we're cooking dinner or something like that, we'll let them throw something on Netflix. You know what I mean? My kids are not, we have screens. We use them mainly during travel, plane rides, things like that. We don't really we don't give them in the car or anything like that either. And actually my oldest daughter, it's funny, she has an iPad. We got her. She uses it to record how long she reads for.
Oh, wow.
So I actually wouldn't be opposed to her using it like a little bit more. She's 9 years old for some things, but she really doesn't. So I feel like and anytime we have given them, we had Amazon Fire, Amazon.
Yeah, Fire Stick.
The Fire. Yep. I just felt like they would just get cranky if you tried to take it away. They'd want to. Like we would just put it away and I feel like they'd ask about it for a second and then they'd stop. And then, so we've been pretty lucky in that. I realize that's not everyone's going to be able to do that, right? A lot of people need a little bit of free time. So they give their kid a screen to help free up some stuff, but we try to minimize it where we can.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we went too heavy in the screens here in our family with our 3 kids, and now we've pulled it back a little more. Just because what you just said, where you say, hey, let's get off, it's time to get off, and the whole mood and transition of that, getting off the device wreaks havoc in the family. So yeah, it's tough, but we're still on the TV. We still are fully cut the cord, on cable, and it's a Netflix and Paramount and all the subscriptions. I don't know about you guys.
And for sports, what are you doing? Are you doing YouTube package or how are you? Okay.
Yeah, YouTube is great. But also, whenever they're, say, like CBS will take the rights to the Super Bowl, for example, you'll buy that subscription briefly. What I find is interesting, I don't know about you guys, but I'm constantly killing subscriptions every month. Like I will, every single month, I'll just go on my phone and I'm just, we are getting rid of it. The one I can't do is Netflix. So
just due to usage mainly? Is that why though? Or
everyone in the family uses it so much. So if I kill that one, there's going to be an immediate revolt.
Yeah, I would say that's the one thing that gets used every day by at least one person, whether it's me and my wife watching a show at night or the kids maybe throwing something on. Somebody's using it at least once a day for 30 minutes to an hour or something like that, unless no TVs watched that day. But if it's on, that's typically going to get played in some manner.
Yeah. What about you, Eric?
Yeah, Netflix is
Same.
easily the main streaming provider we use. And then my wife loves reality TV, so we've got Peacock and Hulu for that too. But most of our time is spent on Netflix. And then sometimes, depending, like I'm a big Notre Dame fan and for football, and then I love Providence College basketball. So pick up like the fall and winter, pick up a YouTube TV subscription so I can watch those guys. But yeah, otherwise the main source of our time on TV is spent on Netflix for sure.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting how, and I guess transitioning, in full disclosure, we do own Netflix stock here at Fox Hill. So I think it is, but I think the reason why I love the fact that we own it, and Bill, I'd love to hear your thoughts here. It is so addictive. Just, it's hard to cut the cord. It's hard to stop the subscription with them because they provide so much content, deep content.
Oh, totally. That's the thing. When you think about all the, like you said, I'm not sure exactly what the statistics are. I know, Eric, we've been talking about it in previous days, but just all the different providers, they have the best rate of renewal and keeping live, right, throughout the month. And like you said, the content is really what it is. When there's anything from comedy to, it's just so vast and so diversified on there. And even just taking like old shows, I think like Suits is probably the best example of a show that was very successful during its time, right? It was definitely watched when it was coming out each week, but they just completely revamped it. And I think it was the #1 streamed show or video when they re-released it on Netflix. And they have that ability to just come in, take it, promote it, you know what I mean, across channels and socials and things like that. I think really one of the reasons why I got into it was because it was showing up on my Instagram feed, a lot of the clips. And I was like, oh, this seems like funny, witty. I probably could get into this. I started watching it on Netflix, and that's how I got into it. And I watched every season, and great show, great content. But they can do that with really anything, right? So they can buy these older shows that did well, get them on the cheap, and can attract maybe new viewership or maintain, right, their current user base.
Yeah, because everyone wants to avoid the dreaded show hole, and you can go to Netflix and you can like, at least there's going to be Suits, there's going to be old Seinfeld, but they're also investing in their own IP. And talk about that, but they've got Squid Games, they've got their own produced Netflix IP shows that only they own, and they've been investing in that heavily over the years.
Yeah, massive spend. They've cut back a lot on that over the past couple of years.
Yeah.
But still, compared to other streaming platforms, they are the biggest spender when it comes to creating new content. And that spend has been reflected as they've hiked up subscription prices. They added a supported ad tier, right? That's $7 a month.
Right.
And now the premium tiers are like $15 and $22 a month. And they need to do that in order to support all this massive amounts of original content that they're creating. The reason they started creating all the original content like 10 years ago was so that they wouldn't have to negotiate with all the original content producers. They could house it on their own platform, own it forever, and really build a loyal fan base that way. But the question now, Justin, is how does Netflix further really build up that brand loyalty and make sure the next generation, like our generation is on Netflix all the time. How do they make sure the next generation is going to be doing that?
Yeah, it's interesting. They just recently announced over the summer that Netflix House, which is a new project that they see the company will open 2 massive theme park-like attractions in former department store spaces. So both in Texas and Pennsylvania. So they're taking, through COVID, you saw malls just being decimated. They were empty. So they've taken advantage of that opportunity, and they're creating immersive stores, which is really interesting as an announcement. They'll open to the public next year. And not only will they include interactive experiences, merchandise, and food, all inspired by their IP, right? So they'll have Squid Games, different experiences. You'll be able to go into the immersive world of Bridgerton, maybe take part of Ob's course out of Squid Games. So, Bill, what are you thinking? If you've got 4 kids, is this something you'd ever take your family to?
I think this is an unbelievable idea. I totally think it would be something that I would take my family to. If you just think of the comparisons, right? So you've got a company like Disney, right, who basically built a theme park that is responsible for so much of their revenue, so much, and a lot of their margin, right? They make so much money at this. I think this is going to be a massive thing for Netflix, and especially too, and you're just coupling all these things, right? You got cheap retail space that you can get up and running, make these places more profitable. I know, for example, like even Apple, right? Some places Apple will negotiate like free leases because they generate so much foot traffic. I think that Netflix, when they get these things up and running in some malls, it's going to be a similar situation, right? They're going to generate so much foot traffic, having people come in here to, hey, go there for 4 hours, have a great time, company outings, you can take kids, and there's so many things that you can do with these.
Yeah.
And again, like even going back to Disney, I still remember, and we talked about it briefly the other day, but just talking about how Michael Eisner back in the day was saying how they hit a real lull with new movies, new characters and things like that. And he was saying how that breeds everything that Disney does. They make a new movie, and that one character with the merchandise, the rides, everything that goes into that, it's a money making machine. And having that, like that, that makes such a huge difference. I think this is Netflix, their foray into that space. And I think there's a lot there for the taking, right? Especially when you think about Disney too. Disney is so expensive for the most families to go, right? You're talking, if you want to go, especially during a vacation week, flights are obviously like, I don't know what the percentages are, up substantially. The cost, hotel, everything like that. People,
the averages for a standard is $8,000 for a family vacation to Disney.
Okay, and that's a family of 4, I'm assuming too,
I think
or
it was 5.
Family of 5. Okay.
Yeah, 4 or 5, but it also depends which hotel you're going to stay at.
Yeah, but this I think enables on the same standard, right? This is something that someone can do like on a Saturday, right? You know what I mean, or something along those lines, right? Where they can go to a kind of a theme park type experience like the stuff with the characters and whatever they're watching. And I think for a much cheaper number, right? It's something that probably everybody, right, the whole en masse can afford to potentially do, right? So I think it's a huge thing that, you know what I mean, that they're doing. So I really think it's going to be a big moneymaker for them. And I think it's going to be a win for the people, everybody, and the company. I really think a lot of people are going to benefit from something like this.
Yeah, it's really interesting because actually I just pulled up the stat. It's wild. And we talk about good debt versus bad debt a lot on our own platforms, but 45% of Americans have gone into debt for a Disney trip.
Wow.
And a lot of, right now, it's tough for everyday families out there. So I think this provides a cheaper alternative to that fabled Disney trip, that magical experience where they can say, hey, for maybe a 10th of the price, or you can go to a mall and bring your whole family for a great time.
Yeah. Maybe even less, right? Maybe you're talking about spending $200 instead of 8,000. But the thing to also consider is those Disney vacations are, that's not a Saturday, right? That you're talking about getting out of work to pulling the kids out of school, going during summer vacation. So the opportunity for Netflix to increase their brand awareness and get people in on a recurring basis, a lot of opportunity there. So I guess my question for you guys is, yes, this seems like a great idea for Netflix. They can hit the next generation, but do you think that Bridgerton Tea House is really going to pull in kids into these malls? Like they're already competing with other entertainment things that are moving into malls, like a Level 99 or Dave & Buster's, things along those lines.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think specifically that example, Bridgerton, I'm not sure it's going to pull a young audience. I don't, that to me where, I question it as well. Does Netflix have, I think their IP is strong enough for an older demographic.
Are they looking to do it with a Bridgerton, or are they looking to do it more with, you know what I mean? Kid stuff, Stranger Things, right? You know what I mean? Things like that. What are they looking to do with?
I think it's a mix of everything. That's the secret about Disney too, though, right? Is Disney ain't for the kids. Disney's for the parents. Yeah, I think it's going to be a similar thing. Get the parents in and have some entertainment for the kids as well.
Disney is
not this bad.
Disney is definitely for the kids. I don't know, Eric.
I'm telling you, man, You can get
No,
alcohol
there
everywhere.
that is true. There
Every
are
time
well,
they're
that,
dressed up as princesses, they're crying, but the parents love it. They're taking photos of the kids and stuff. It's interesting. I tell you, it's
there's a combination of sense. I know plenty of people. They love Disney, right? They're like, oh, it's
Yeah.
like one of my favorite places. I know adults who don't have kids who go to Disney, right? Not for me. I'm more of let's hit up the Caribbean, nice place in Florida. You know what I mean? Something like that. That's more of a relaxing vacation for me. Crowds, stuff like that. That doesn't really do it for me. I understand but my kids they loved it. They thought it was the greatest thing in the world. Talking to the animals, princesses. I still remember my third youngest saying how she was going to have Mickey and Minnie and Goofy. They were all coming to her birthday party. You know what I mean? As we were leaving, waving to them. So it still cracks me up thinking about it. But yeah, to say it's for the adult, I don't know. We'll say there is some enjoyment, maybe for the adults, but I would say it's mainly a kid's.
Well, I think I do get, there are a lot of people who will I've known in their 20s over the years who have, they signed up for the Disney marathons or the half marathon, and that's their excuse to go. But then they're in the park, they're doing all the rides. So it is interesting how that has been appealing. But I think for Netflix, just looking at the shows, I think they've definitely done a good job creating their own shows that they own themselves, right? Their own IP for adults, like Bridgerton, or maybe Stranger Things is one of them. They've also invested in a lot of shows like Bear Grylls, super popular. They have an immersive show with him called You versus Wild that you can actually choose your own adventure. So kids are loving that. Cobra Kai came out. So that's the next version of what we love growing up is Karate Kid, right? That's the next season. Fuller House, same thing. So they've taken these shows that all parents are like, oh, of course you can watch that. And they're giving it to their kids, which is a smart. We talk about how sticky that is. And you have other shows like Floor is Lava. Also, what we did as kids, like you actually played that was a game. And now it's like they've made a TV show, which better for worse. I think I'd rather have the kids playing it than watching it. They have done a good job at that. So maybe those are other things we can expect in these Netflix house experiences.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of stuff that they can go with. And also, too, I think if a lot of these games, if it is in the level 99 or something like that, they can move these things in and out. So if it's not being used, and they can, now they can track the usage of each of these games. If people are finding that they're not liking it, I don't think it's too cheap to move almost like a cubicle, right? Game, move that out, put something in that people are enjoying and things like that. I just feel like there's a lot of potential to really just to capture a lot. It's a great way to entertain, but I think there's just a lot of potential there.
Yeah. They didn't release numbers on how much it's going to cost. They're building out 2 of them to start. And
Texas
just to see how it goes. But I pulled a stat. Disney announced that they're doing a giant update of a bunch of their parks. They're adding a whole nother section to Magic Kingdom. And the total cost was like $60 billion. Netflix didn't release the numbers on this, but you'd have to imagine it's a much smaller risk. These spaces are probably incredibly cheap. It's spots where Macy's and JCPenney are leaving. So I feel like it's a low risk investment.
Netflix has always been super secretive of their costs, right? So like they don't tell how much they're spending on things. They never release streaming numbers. Like they keep all that stuff real tight to the vest. So we'll have to see if we ever get those numbers.
Yeah.
I guess there'll be a workaround way of trying to figure out what those numbers are. But I doubt they're ever going to come out with how Disney has said, hey, we're going to put $60 billion right into this aspect.
So do you think Netflix has equal or stronger brand presence versus Disney? Because that was the example we were using to start.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if they have the same.
They're competing with hundreds of years, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, what are like the top brands you think of when you think of Netflix? You think of Stranger Things, Bridgerton, there's the show Hermione. But like with Disney, you think of the princesses, you think of Star Wars, Marvel, Lion King.
They have a lot of IP.
Yeah. Netflix doesn't have the Super Bowl winning quarterback saying they're going to Netflix house each year.
But they do have a documentary with the Super Bowl winning quarterback.
Oh, so there you
go. I mean, there's, you know what I mean? Like, that QB series, right? And then now they have a wide receiver series, right? So yeah, they're not, obviously Disney is a giant, right? They're but we're not talking about taking them on head to head. You know what I mean? I think
that's true.
This is taking a little bit, you know what I mean? That part of the market, right? That, I don't even know what you want to call that entertainment space, right? That live entertainment space.
It's like the fast casual version of it, right?
Yeah, totally. Right. You know what I mean? You're taking a little bit of that space and again, you're advertising it, right? Like I said, or like we were talking about earlier, everyone said you guys are watching it like once a day. You don't think that's going to pop on when you first open Netflix? Oh, by the way, I don't know.
Oh, they'll definitely promote it for sure.
Yeah, this mall opened up. Yep. So you'll be getting those. There's no doubt in my mind that will be coming up when you open up. It won't go right to a TV show, right? That's the number one ranked movie or the number one ranked TV show. The first thing you're going to see is a 15-second clip on some of those areas. I guarantee that will happen.
Yeah. Their stock. So like just looking at their stock over the past 5 years, it's at all-time highs today as we're talking right now. So September 18th, it's at $696 a share. Up for the year, it's up 76% for the past year, which is obviously they're doing something right. But it's interesting. They took a dive 2021 all the way down to $180, and now they've come back up. What's your take on that, the performance of the stock itself?
That was very specific to what was going on, right? Netflix popped a lot in the pandemic. People are sitting at home on their couch and creating a Netflix subscription. Then what happened as people started getting out of the house, subscriptions were cut, Netflix stock plummeted. Then Netflix added the ad-supported tier and started cracking down on password sharing. So a bunch of people who got kicked out of their family accounts then bought the $7 a month ad-supported tier and were okay with that. Netflix added a bunch of subscribers, raised the price of the premium tier, and the stock has gone up since then. But the question is for investors, is Netflix house a sign that Netflix is going to run out of runway in terms of cord cutting and subscriber growth? So do they need to now jump into the Disney business model to continue to grow? Disney's revenue, 50% of it actually comes from the parks and the cruise lines and stuff like that. So maybe that's what the future of Netflix looks 30 years down the road. But for now, is this a signal that they're not going to grow as much from the subscriber base they currently have from cord cutting?
Yeah, I think cord cutting I would say it's reached its peak. Maybe more and more people are still doing it. I actually have a stat
at the end.
Yeah, what is it? Do you have it now?
It actually is still growing, but the rate at which people are cutting the cord is slowing. Yeah. So it's gone from 24.6 million cord cutters in 2019 to 46.6 million in 2024. So it's not, most of our generation has already cut the cord. It's that older generation.
I was going to say, right, that 55 plus
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got to remember there's a whole generation of people who it's just not going to happen. You know what I mean? They like their network news. They like their, you know what I mean? All those things. And that's a daily activity for them. So I just don't, and they're, the early adapters, right? Like how you do things, stuff like that takes a while. And I still think we're going through that a little bit, right? I still have cable, something I've thought about maybe cutting and stuff like that, but I still have it, right? And so I talk about cutting the cord all the time, right? So I'm guilty as anybody for keeping something that I don't necessarily use, at least not nearly enough to justify what I'm paying for it. But I think there's a whole other group of people who they think of it as like a monthly bill and they're just going to keep paying it because they do scroll on the television and go through the guide and stuff.
Yeah, and that's interesting. I think two things I'm looking at when I'm looking at Netflix stock is number one, like what is their churn rate? So how many subscribers are leaving them every month or annually? The other piece is like their stickiness. So when Eric, you just said they announced a rate hike, a lot of people didn't flinch at that. They were just like, cool, that's $4 more. No big deal. This is still valuable to me. They could probably double it. I hope they don't, but they could probably do that and turn on a ton of revenue right away overnight. So I think looking at the fundamentals of a company, it's like, they have strong revenue numbers, Eric.
Yeah. And I didn't know if you had the churn rate.
Churn rate, yeah,
you.
So typically
go ahead.
2% per month.
Yeah,
So
I remember you saying.
And who's
far
the
lower.
next closest competitor as far as churn rate goes?
That's a good question. I don't have that in front of me right now.
It's so Amazon Prime at 4%, and they
Sure.
have double the churn rate, but also like when you're buying Prime, you're also getting access to
Majority of
purchasing
those,
options.
yeah.
Getting the next stage. So it's surprising to me that they have a higher churn rate than Netflix does. And as far as the pure streamers, the next closest is Disney Plus at about a 5% churn rate. Netflix sitting there, the competitors aren't even close. They're a growth company, but they're almost like a utility, right? You can't get rid of it. It's growing quickly, and their revenue is from a subscription service. So it's going to be consistent. It's very interesting.
Yeah. And people are all right with having the cost go up. Again, I think they've been pretty reasonable, right? With those cost increases. Like you're saying, Justin, they could probably be a lot more, but they've almost recognized like, all right, if we just do it incrementally, that's going to give us a big growth runway, but at the same time, it'd be reasonable for the American or the world public to afford. So
the world public is right. Yeah.
We haven't touched on is the emergence of short form video. And I had actually found a stat. This is probably related to short form video. It's that YouTube actually overtook Netflix. This is within the past year for like share of screen time for teens.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
and
sure.
I assume since then, TikTok's probably overtaken them as well. And Netflix doesn't really have a short form video competitor. The people have asked like Netflix's CEO before, oh, are you going to get into this space? And he had said, no, we actually just use it as free advertising. Are you guys at all scared for Netflix at all with the emergence of the popularity of short form video, especially with the younger generation? Maybe the Netflix house thing is a way to combat that. But I didn't know if you guys, I don't know, see your kids on any of these products, or if you guys even allow it too in your house. It's so addicting.
It is a hot topic in our house. And I was last night going through my son's screen time data on his an iPad. The first thing so it shows first app to be launched upon pickup. That's YouTube Shorts. YouTube Shorts is crushing. We don't allow social media, but they like the kids, they're smart. They found a loophole and they were like, hey, YouTube Shorts, Dad, it's not social media. But so I think it is something to be, concerned about on the defensive side for Netflix, right? Like, how are you going to compete? I think even from a personal level, maybe, I don't know what this says about me, but oftentimes like you put a show on and sometimes we're second screening. I know that MLB had a massive problem against second and third screening because the baseball is just so boring for most people to watch. The season. Yeah. They had a hard time. They've changed the rules. There's a pitch count now. I think Netflix is going to have, that problem. Bill, I don't know if you ever do that, catch yourself doing that as well.
Oh, no, of course I do. Yeah. It almost annoys me when it happens, right? I'll be doing it. And I throw my phone into the couch and discuss sometimes. I'm like, would you just pay attention to one thing?
Right. It's hard.
Yeah.
So the kids are definitely on that. And I think that's, I'm not sure. I think they combat that with creating more IP, and this immersive Netflix house experience will strengthen their brand over time is my point, I think. But
yeah. And hopefully too, if you think about, I don't know, we don't do we do some of it, right? A little family movie night or something like that. Maybe at the house, if someone's saying something, hey, you got to put your phone down. We're just watching this right now. You know what I mean? Or something like that. I think that kind of helps keep it in line. But yeah, I definitely think listen, those shorts, those reels, TikTok, whatever it is, they know how to get their claws into you, and they know, you know what I mean, how to keep you watching. There's no doubt
they know
the interaction, the algorithm, everything, right? It's all over you. And everyone, I don't know anyone who doesn't say, hey, I get into it sometimes and I'm just watching for, even if it's 10 minutes, they only wanted it to be 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Or something like that. It has a way of extending it for much longer. And sometimes There's some really great shorts. You pick up some stuff, maybe whether it be if you're a cook, right? You want to do, or maybe some easy meals, something like that. You get into that, you go, oh, wow, I just found 5 great recipes that we can do something great for the family. If you're into comedians, great clips, right? Things like that. There's so much stuff that kind of goes into it. Even I like coaching the kids in soccer. I get soccer drills. You know what I mean? On some of the reels, I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. I could run that through in practice. And then there's a whole host of nonsense, right? That doesn't help us at all.
Right.
And so it's highly addictive. I would say though, it's incredibly less satisfying than watching a good long form episode of something.
Oh yeah. Or movie.
Yeah. Like that. I can watch those reels and I just, you almost don't feel good. But then when you watch a great episode of something that has an awesome ending, or a movie that just moved you, it's no contest in terms of the satisfaction you get in entertainment. But for whatever reason, it occupies our mind and passes that time. But so it's tough, right? It's highly addictive, but at the same time, I don't feel it's nearly as good a form of entertainment.
It's funny, like in our house, I'll actually say, hey, get off YouTube, go watch a movie if you want to watch screen. Go open up Netflix, which I don't know why I think that's better. Eric, you're about to have your first child. What do you think you and Britt are gonna allow as he or she gets older?
I think. I'm gonna be the mean dad, right? Because I think I'm gonna try to keep the phone away as long as possible. My kid's gonna be the loser in the class that doesn't have the phone yet. Is getting made fun of, but oh my God, I just see it with my wife Britt and I, where like. Same thing you guys are talking about. We'll have a reality TV show on and then we're on our phones. Same thing. Right? And then we're like, oh my God, what are we doing? But maybe ultimately there could be a revolt against this kind of stuff, right? When people catch on. People are already starting to catch on. I'm getting, as I'm on my phone, addicted to whatever platform I'm on, I'm getting content about how addicting it is. And I'm like, isn't this ironic? But maybe there'll be a revolt against this kind of short form stuff. Or even watching TV too much, right? With Netflix. So bringing it back to Netflix, right? And this is a great business proposition for them to have activities for families to do. I actually pulled a stat, which I'm interested in what you guys see anecdotally. The stat is a study from UC Irvine showed that modern parents are spending 2 times the amount of time with their kids than parents did 50 years ago. Considering that 75% of our time with our children has elapsed by the time they're 12 years old, people are starting to realize, hey, let's get in that family time now, spend time with our kids, get off the screens, whether it's going to sports or doing all these weekend activities, things like that. I didn't know if you guys saw that in your own life or with your friend groups. So yeah, I'll throw this over to Justin to start and then maybe Bill can comment on it.
Yeah, I think it's shocking. I don't know how families are doing that. Most of them are both out in the workplace working 2 jobs at a minimum. So I think it's a surprising statistic. If anything, maybe like kids aren't sleeping as much as they used to. I know for my kids as they've gotten older, sports are later and later. And I am trying to be involved as a coach. I know, Bill, you're coaching a lot of sports as well. Do you think parents are doing that more and more just to stay involved in their child's lives? Is that why you're coaching?
Yeah, no, I have a good time with it. My kids asked me, right? They all said, hey, Dad, would you want to coach? And that kind of prompted me. I don't think before I had kids, or even when I had kids I never thought I would actually get into coaching. I was like, I don't want to deal with parents. I don't want to deal with other kids who are wanting stuff like that. But I actually have a great time with it. But I like seeing the kids get better. I like, you know what I mean? I like seeing my own kids obviously get better, but I like seeing the other kids get better. I like just even like little incremental progress. I have a lot of fun with that stuff. You know, and I'm thinking like looking back my own childhood or even my cousins, like with their father, stuff like that. I think my cousin was saying like growing up, he goes, my dad maybe went to 3 of my games, like baseball games, or I would see him sometimes like in the outfield because he'd stop by for 3 innings of my baseball game because he was working and then he had to go to something else. My dad definitely went to a lot of my games growing up, and my mom did too. But I do feel like talking to other people, they say all the time, there'd be games, there'd be no parents there growing up. You know what I mean? Or maybe only half the parents. Now every parent I feel like is there. At least one of them, right? You know what I mean? Is there. It's true. Not so, I mean, we would carpool, right? To all these things. Like you'd have 3, 4 kids in a car because parents weren't coming to the games. You know, now I feel like it's everyone's driving their own car because they're all going, things along those lines.
That,
And
that is a good point.
And I just feel like maybe two people they want to spend time with their family. They're burnt out from work. They're working so much. So when they do, they want to shut off and but they want to do it with their family. So I don't know if that's playing a role in it. I really.
So I think to bring it back full circle here, Eric, you had talked about, should they be scared of the increasing popularity of YouTube Shorts, TikTok, etc.? I think it's going to come down to parents. If I was Netflix next year, as we launch Netflix House, I would be running ads saying, hey, let's bring your kids back to reality a bit. Like, get them off YouTube, bring them into the Netflix House and have an experience with them in the real world.
Yeah, like live life, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah. So I think it's a good play. In the end, we'll see. Who knows? Just to wrap things up, what do you guys think? How do you feel? Like, bullish, bearish on the stock? If you even want to disclose that, I don't know. Maybe we don't, but.
No, I think it's fine. Like, we own it, so our stance is definitely bullish. But I'll take the bear case though. Bill, you take the bull case. The bear case is they don't have the same kind of IP that Disney has. They don't have the same brand recognition with kids that Disney has. You're competing with all the other things parents want to do with kids already. Yeah. Like, Disney might not be in this competitive space that Netflix is trying to enter, but there are other things that already exist, like the Level 99 that we talked about, which has all those different game rooms, and it's a really amazing experience. But you got to figure there's other things like that opening around the country. So
Disney could roll something like this out very easily too.
That's very true. Yeah. That's what all the big companies do, right? Is they see what someone else does, copy it, and scale it faster than them. The other part of the bear case is Netflix going to start to get desperate? Is that why they're heading this way? Is it because they're not going to grow their subscriber group?
New subscriptions
slowing down over time, right? And that's why they need to enter this. That's the big question. So yeah, let's throw it over, Bill, if you can do the bull case.
Yeah, the bull case, I think this is a huge new opportunity for them. I think it will help with subscriptions as well. I don't think it's going to be like explosive growth like we've seen over the last 10 years or so or anything like that. But I certainly think it will help, number one, maintain, right, their current user base. I think that's a big deal, right? Maintaining your subscription with people. This allows you to incrementally raise prices, you know what I mean? Things along those lines. So I think that's really important there. I think it's a whole new revenue stream for them. I don't think it's overly expensive for them to run. I think the advertising for this space, they own the network, right? You know what I mean? To get this stuff rolled out. So I think they're going to be able to push it and get it out to their people very easily and pretty cost efficiently. And so like with that, and then if they're growing worldwide as well, I don't know as much like in other countries, like how prominent Netflix is like it is here. That is something we should definitely look into. You know what I mean? I think a little bit more, but I just think this is a case to do something. And again, just looking at the Disney model, looking how this could affect Netflix, I think it really is it's a big thing. It's a good time to do it with malls dissipating in a sense and a lot of that retail space being there. They can snap that up, I think, reasonably cheaply. They're not paying a ton for that footprint. They can negotiate reasonable leases, the length of the leases, you know what I mean? Keep them in good shape. And so with all those things, I think they're in a good position right now. Again, I always say like I'm bullish on a stock, right, until I'm not. So I can change my opinion pretty quick, based off of new information, things like that come up. And that's with any stock, right? We're constantly evaluating, where they're at. And we might be bullish on a stock 1 minute, 6 weeks later. New information came out that might lead us down a different path. But I think these are all good things for the long-term growth of Netflix, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's great. We'd love to hear from you guys. What do you think? Bullish or bearish, underrated or overrated? We want to hear from you. As always, hit us up on all the social platforms, everywhere you listen to podcasts and beyond. Thank you guys all for tuning in to another week of Wealth Wisdom. Bill Ryan, Eric Benz, and myself, Justin Noby, signing off.